Welcome to our lesson on medians. So today we're going to be able to know what a median is and draw that on a triangle, and we'll also be able to know the conceptual and algebraic relationship that the centroid has to the median and the triangle. So let's talk about what a median is first. A median is a segment of a triangle that goes from the vertex, or one of the angles, to the midpoint of the opposite side. The point where all the medians intersect is called the centroid, and the centroid is the balancing point of the triangle. So in this diagram here, BF is a median because it is going from the angle B, the vertex of that triangle, to the midpoint F on the opposite side. And we have two other medians. One is AE, going from the angle A to the midpoint E, and the other would be CD, going from the angle C to the midpoint D. And in this diagram, the centroid would be the point P, because that's the intersection of all three medians. So let's just practice and make sure we understand what this means. So here is the triangle STR, and we are going to draw in the three separate medians on three different diagrams, and we're going to make sure that we know all those lengths and have that relationship. So the first median I'm going to draw in is I'm going to start at S and then go to my midpoint of TR. So ST, the length of that side did not change, so that is still 4. SR would still be 5 because we did not change that side. But TR, we went to a midpoint, which means each side is congruent. So instead of saying TR is 6, we're going to talk about the left side is 3 and the right side is 3. So now the whole length is 6, but we've divided it into 2 equal pieces. Let's move on to the angle R and draw our median from there. R out to the midpoint. Okay. So SR remains 5, and TR will still be 6. ST is no longer 4 because we went to the midpoint, which means each side is going to be congruent. So instead of using 4, we're going to label the top as 2 and the bottom as 2. So we took that length of 4 and divided it into 2 equal pieces. And our final median would be from the angle T. So going from T to the midpoint of SR. So the side ST does not change, it's 4, and TR is still 6. SR now is the one being cut in half. The midpoint makes 2 congruent pieces, so each piece would be 2.5, because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So let's do a little bit of algebra with that. So here we have the median NC of triangle ABC, and we want to find the value of x. So NA is 4x minus 1. And NB is 3x plus 2. Remember that NC is a median, which means that N is going to be my midpoint because C is the vertex. So if this is a midpoint, that means this top piece and this bottom piece are congruent. And we know that congruent means equal. I can take the expression for the top piece, NA, and set it equal to the expression for the bottom piece, NB. So there's the geometry. I'll go ahead and write in the algebra. So NA is 4x minus 1 equals NB, which is 3x plus 2. And now all we need to do is solve for x. Subtract 3x from each side. So x minus 1 equals 2, and then add 1 to each side. And we find x equals 3. Here's a similar problem, different orientation, similar problem. RK is the median of triangle IJK. which means R here is our midpoint. So the left and the right will be congruent. Find the value of x and the length of ij. If ij is x minus 2, so this whole length is x minus 2, and ri is x minus 7, so just this half. In this case, we cannot set these equal because ij is the whole length and ri is just a piece of it. It's just the left side. Only set them equal when you have the left side and the right side. If you have the whole length and then one side or the other, you're going to double that shorter side. Remember, midpoints are in the middle, which means I have two congruent pieces to get the whole. So I can say that ij equals 2 times ri. And I'll plug in the algebra for this. So ij is x minus 2, and ri is x minus 7. And I need to double that. So now we'll solve, starting off with the distributive property. I'm going to move my x over. And finally, I'll add 14 to each side. So 12 equals x. That's only a part of this problem because the problem wanted us to find the value of x and the length of ij. So ij equals x minus 2. So instead of writing x, we're going to do 12 minus 2, which means ij equals 10. All right, so that's a really great review of midpoints and how those relate to medians. Triangles and medians have other properties as well. So the median of a triangle intersects at a point that is 2/3 the distance from each vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. In other words, what it's saying is this centroid P is 2/3 the distance. So BP would be 2/3 and PF would be 1/3. But at this point, when I'm starting to say about fractions and thirds and 2/3, I know some of us are starting to get some anxiety with fractions. What we can do is we can set up a proportion instead. If we look at the median BF as a whole, what we're going to do is we're going to color code it with 3 different colors. Because remember, it's 2/3, which means I'm breaking this into 3 pieces because that's the denominator. What I'm going to do is go ahead and color BP 2 colors, orange and blue. And then I'll make PF pink for 1 color because that's just 1/3 of it. So what happens here, anytime we want to solve this, we're just going to take the expression and divide by how many colors. So if we look at this middle relationship here on the screen, we can see BF divided by 3. Well, that's the segment BF, and we're going to divide by how many colors? 1, 2, 3, orange, blue, and pink. BP, that's the segment, and BP is made up of 2 colors, orange and blue, so we just divide it by 2. And PF is only 1 color, pink, so it gets divided by 1. And what this is doing is it is creating equal parts. If we think of each color as being its own third, we're dividing this into those smaller pieces that are going to be equal. Okay? This is what's called a proportion. And I can do the same thing with AE. So if AE, I go ahead and color my AE median. I have orange, blue, and pink. The segment AE is made up of 3 colors, orange, blue, and pink. But AP, that segment is only 2 colors, orange and blue. And PE is only 1 color, so we just divide by 1. And we'll do this last one. So I'll go ahead and color it orange, blue, and pink. So the segment, the whole median CD, is created with 3 different colors, the orange, blue, and the pink pieces. But CP, that segment, is only two colors, so we only divide by 2 because it's just orange and blue. And finally, DP is just one color, so we only divide by the 1. So let's do some math with this and just see how this works. We're going to start off with just some numerical values to get comfortable with this. So given that Q is the centroid, that's just a fancy way of saying, hey, we have some medians here. And SQ equals 8, find QW and SW. The first thing we want to do is color code these. So I'm going to color these orange, blue, and pink. And now we can go ahead and start. You always want to use the segment you have information about. So in this case, it's SQ. SQ. And how many colors make up SQ? 2, orange and blue. So divide by 2 equals, which segment would we like to find? The first one they list here is QW, so we'll start with that. QW. The segment QW only has one color, and that's pink, so we just divide by 1. Now we can go ahead and solve this. So SQ is 8 divided by 2 equals QW divided by 1. For this, we can just simplify both sides. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and QW divided by 1, anything divided by 1 is itself. So QW. So that one would be done. We also need to find SW. Remember, always start with the segment you have information about. So this was SQ. SQ, and SQ was made up of 2 colors, orange and blue. And we want to find SW. So the segment goes on top. How many colors make up SW? Orange, blue, and pink. 3, so we divide by 3. Now we can go ahead and plug in the values. SQ is 8 divided by 2 equals SW divided by 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and we cannot divide SW by 3. But we know to undo division, we're going to multiply. So times 3 on each side, and we find SW equals 12. Here's a couple more problems we'll do about this with just the numbers, and then we'll get to some algebra expressions. So G is the centroid, AD equals 8, AG equals 10, and CD equals 18. Let's not focus on all those numbers until we identify which pieces of this triangle we're looking at. Find the length of BD. BD is this segment here. So this is the outside edge of the triangle, which means we're just looking for midpoints. BD is going to be congruent to AD because D is that midpoint. So if AD is 8, then BD is also 8. Same diagram. Now we're looking for the length of AB. So now we want this whole length. Remember, AD is 8, and we can either double 8 because it's a midpoint and find that this is 16, or we could say AD is 8 and BD is also 8, and then add those two values together to get 16. Either way is fine if you want to add them or just double it, okay? But AB equals 16. This next problem is asking for the length of EG. Well, EG is part of a median because it's inside of my triangle here. So what we're going to need to do is we need to color code the entire median with our 3 colors. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Orange, blue, and pink. Once I've done that, I can see that AG is that piece of my median I have information about. So I need to use AG And I'm going to divide by how many colors AG is. AG is 2, orange and blue. So divide by 2. And we're trying to find EG. So that goes on the other side. And we divide by how many colors EG is. Just 1. Once I've set that up, I can go ahead and plug in my values. AG is 10 divided by 2 equals EG divided by 1. Reduce each side. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And EG divided by 1 is just EG. So the length of EG is 5. All right, now we want to find the length of AE. So AE is this whole median here. So what we're going to do is start off with color coding it, orange, blue, and pink. And we can see that AG is the segment that we have information about. So I'm going to start with AG and divide by how many colors make up AG. Well, AG is made up of 2 colors, so divide by 2. And we want to find AE. AE. Divide by the number of colors AE is. 1, 2, 3. Now that we have that proportion set up, we can go ahead and plug in our values. AG is 10. 10 divided by 2 equals AE divided by 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And we cannot divide AE by 3. But we know that when we're solving, we can undo that division with multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by the denominator of 3. And so 15 equals AE. Now, let's jump into our algebra type problems, okay? So when we're using the algebra, it's not always going to simplify as nicely as what we may want it to. But the setup is still the same. So we're solving for x, and we have the segments of JE and RJ. So JE is this longer piece, and RJ is the entire median. So what we want to start off with doing is make sure we color code this median we're looking at. So I'll color it orange, blue, and pink. And now we can go ahead and start setting this up. So we have 2 segments here we're dealing with that we have expressions for. JE and RJ. What we're going to do is divide it by the colors. JE is made up of 2 colors, orange and blue. So divide by 2. And set that equal to RJ divided by the number of colors that make up RJ. RJ is made up of 3, orange, blue, and pink. So he gets divided by 3. Once we have that set up, we can plug in our algebra. So x plus 2 divided by 2 equals 3x minus 3 divided by 3. So now we have expressions on the top and the numerator of both of these problems. What we're going to do is one step at a time, get rid of that denominator. So I'm going to get rid of this denominator of 3 first. So these ones cancel out on the right. And this 3 is going to multiply by the entire numerator. So 3x plus 6 over 2. And the right side is just 3x minus 3 because that denominator canceled out. Now we're going to repeat the same thing and multiply by 2, though, to get rid of my other denominator. And this 2 is going to distribute to the entire right side. So 3x plus 6 equals 6x minus 6. This is an equation we can solve. Subtract 3x from each side. And then add 6. So 12 equals 3x, and we'll divide each side by 3 to find that 4 equals x. So that problem took a little bit more of our algebra skills, and that's okay. Let's do another one. So here we have E is the centroid. Remember, that's a fancy way of saying here's a bunch of medians. Solve for x if ER is x minus 10 and JE is x minus 8. So ER is this piece and JE is this piece. Color code your median first. Start there. So if I color code this, orange, blue, and pink, I want you guys to set up that initial proportion, okay? So give you a moment and set that up. Okay, so the two segments are ER and JE. We're going to divide these by the number of colors that make each segment up. ER is one color, just pink, and JE is two, orange and blue. So that gets divided by 2 and set those equal. If you got that, you're ready to go into the algebra. Go ahead and let's plug in our algebraic expressions. ER is x minus 10, still divided by 1, equals JE, x minus 8, and that's divided by 2. So what we're going to do is we are going to multiply by the denominator. So times 2 to get rid of that denominator, times 2. And the 2 here on the left is going to be distributed to both of those values. So this becomes 2x minus 20 over 1 equals x minus 8. We can multiply each side by 1. Okay. Or the other thing we can do is we know that any value divided by 1 is just itself. So we could just say 2x minus 20 equals x minus 8. And now solve for x. Subtract from both sides. And add 20 to each side. So x equals 12. Okay. So again, a little bit more algebra. Just take it slow and you're going to get through it just fine. So a few things to remember. Medians connect an angle to a midpoint, and those midpoints are on the sides. So anytime you're using the sides, you're going to have the doubling feature or you're going to be congruent. And that depends on, do you have the two different pieces or do you have the whole thing in one piece? And we also have our medians and centroids. And the key to this is going to be setting up that proportion. The top of the proportion is your segments, and the bottom is how many colors fit into that segment. And then you go ahead and solve. That's all you need to remember and focus on for this lesson are those things right there. And that's it for medians.